the land of pasta, wine, and ancient ruins. Glorious, gorgeous, delicious Italy. It's no wonder it's the 5th most visited country in the world. For decades, I wanted to see it for myself, and finally made that dream come true. My adventure involved stops in Rome, the Amalfi Coast, and Venice, all in 1 week. Ideally, I would have planned a longer trip, but I think I could live there for years and never truly see all the country has to offer. My journey started in Rome, based at the Hotel Fontana, located directly across from the Trevi Fountain. It's a converted convent and the view will never get old. Staying there allows you several perks. Beyond being able to easily see the fountain in the wee hours of the morning and late at night, there's a legend that if you throw a coin in the Trevi Fountain, you'll be gifted a return visit to Rome. About 3,000 euros are tossed in each day, and we even happen to catch the weekly cleaning when the money is vacuumed out, then taken to a Catholic charity for the poor and oppressed. Being based by the fountain means being in the middle of everything, with an easy walk to most of the monuments and landmarks you'll want to see on your visit. We started with Vatican City, which is actually a country. Yes, you heard that right. The Vatican is technically the smallest country in the world, only about 1/8 the size of New York Central Park. It's where the Pope lives. You can actually see him most Sundays for Mass, though if you go that day, you won't be able to tour the sites like St. Peter's Basilica or the Sistine Chapel, painted in 1512 by Michelangelo, housing some of the world's most famous monuments. So my suggestion is go another day and soak up all the art and lessons on how it came to be. The next day, we hit several of the other big sites in Rome, from climbing the Spanish Steps, twice in our case, by accident actually, as we looked for our hop-on, hop-off bus, to roaming the Colosseum. Our tour allowed us access to the arena floor, where the gladiators of centuries past entertained the Romans. Fun fact, in some cases, the gladiators were even women. The Roman Forum is nearby, along with Palatine Hill, and you could spend hours walking through each historical landmark. Once we covered all that, we explored much of the rest of the city, meandering by foot whatever direction the next thrill took us. It's the kind of place where there's a surprise everywhere you turn, from artists painting in the street to massive statues that you can spend hours studying minute details of. That night, we took in the sights a different way, on a Vespa with a sidecar, a la Roman holiday. No, we didn't drive it ourselves. We had a guide take us around and saw many of the same sights from earlier, but with a very different perspective, lit up beautifully at night. Rome takes on a different aura in the evening, and we embrace the fun of doing it via Vespa. We even hit the highest spot in the city to take it all in by starlight, and topped it all off with a pit stop for gelato at a shop that had a chocolate waterfall. Not kidding. Go ahead and add that to your list of must-sees too. Our takeaway from Rome: it's small enough to get around most places by foot, so skip the hop-on, hop-off tour. Its stops really aren't as close as you'll want to be to the buildings that you're going to want to see. And splurge on the Vespa Tour, especially if you're with a kiddo, just because it's different. The next day, we made our way by high-speed train to Naples, the land that created pizza. Not the stuff you're likely used to eating, but the stuff that'll have you dreaming about eating it for years to come. Made with fresh tomatoes and mozzarella, created on land nearby. Delicious. The train trip was smooth, and my tip is to book it in advance, online, and reserve seats. Then you don't have to worry about validating tickets or anything that might get you fined later. Our stop in Naples was quick, since our next hotel was located in Positano on the Amalfi Coast. We hired a driver to get us there, because navigating these roads yourself is not recommended. Plus, it's tough to take in the sights if you're keeping your eyes on the road, and trust me, with these twists and turns, keeping your eyes anywhere else is not an option. Once you get to your hotel, you'll likely want to see more than the city where you're based. The Amalfi Coast is peppered with little towns you'll want to explore, and the best way to do that is with a tour that takes you right where you need to go. My tip here: don't be afraid to opt for the city bus instead. You can buy tickets at most hotels or at the bus stop, which in our case doubled as a corner store and bar. Just a 15-minute walk from our hotel. For €2 each way, it's more affordable than an €80 fee for a driver for a few hours. We took the bus back and forth between Positano and Amalfi and got to see most of the coast that way. With more time, we also would have explored Capri, an island just off the coast. and the famed Blue Grotto. But the water was much too cold for us to swim in when we visited, so that'll have to be on our return trip that I'm sure we'll get, since it's essentially guaranteed by our coin in the Trevi Fountain. My next takeaway is definitely go after April when it's warmer, but not too late in the summer, because then I hear it's sweltering hot. From there, we crossed the country all the way up to Venice. It took under 6 hours on the high-speed train, and once we arrived, the only way to get around was on foot or by water. So we splurged on a private water limo from the train station to the door of our hotel that night. It was 70 euros, or close to 77 bucks these days. The other option is the water shuttle, which costs 15 euros total for two. It makes multiple stops in the city, including the Rialto Bridge, which is an easy walk to most of the hotels in the area. That said, Venice is a bit of a maze, so until you get a feel for the area, it's not ideal for rolling a suitcase through the cobblestone streets, endlessly lost. My takeaway on this is make the splurge once with the water limo, but then after you get a feel for the streets, use the shuttle to get back to the train station. We stayed at the Rosini Palace Hotel. The church bells greeted us in the morning, along with the scent of baking bread. It's a great way to wake up. We happened to arrive in Venice during Carnival, purely by accident, but I'd plan it this way if you can. It adds another layer of thrill to see people walking the streets decked out in their Carnival costumes. Our visit was short, but we made sure to squeeze in multiple stops to St. Mark's Square, both at night and in the daytime, and tried a Bellini, a sweet celebratory drink, and even sampled some squid ink pasta. Of course, we took a gondola ride, winding through the waterways. We listened to our guide tell us about the history of various buildings. We floated our way out into the Grand Canal and essentially kicked back and enjoyed the ride. It's one of those things I dreamt of doing for decades and was glad to share the fun with my daughter. Venice is incredibly romantic, and I'm sure would be magical with your spouse or significant other, but I dare say it was just as special with my girl. It was an ideal way to end an incredible week, making memories we won't forget anytime soon. My last takeaway, pick up a few Italian phrases before you go. You don't have to speak the language to get around, but they get a real kick out of hearing you try. For me, the terms grazie and prego, thank you and you're welcome, are critical. Buongiorno is hello, and more formal than ciao, which can also work. And finally, you want to know bello, which means beautiful. You'll find yourself saying it over and over on this adventure.